next candidate is Mike Pompeo of Wichita. He's been president of Century International since 2006. Prior to joining Century, he was founder and chief executive officer of Thayer Aerospace, and before Thayer, Pompeo practiced law at the law firm of Williams & Conway, Washington, D.C. He has served on the board of directors of Industrial Container Services Incorporated and also served in the military as an Army cavalry officer in Germany and Fort Carson, Colorado. He earned his bachelor's degree in engineering management from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point and his Juris Doctorate from Harvard Law School. Mike, if you want to come on up and have you say a few words here.
Thank you, Tim. Well, good morning, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. I'm going to do it with no notes, no teleprompters. I'm going to do it straight from the heart. Tim was kind enough to read a little bit of my biography. I grew up in Southern California, but with a mother from Wellington, Kansas. My grandfather was actually a sheriff in the great Mitchell County in Kansas. And my mother came and worked for the Boeing Company, so we got deep roots back here in Kansas. She had 10 siblings down in Wellington. And we were actually in Wellington last week. We had a reunion of the class of 1946, 47, and 48 in Wellington, Kansas. And the first gentleman through the door introduced himself as saying, "I took your mother to prom in 1945. And it was great fun. It's wonderful to be back in Kansas in that way. I've traveled a good distance to be here before you today running for Congress. After graduating from high school, I went to West Point and then served in the Army for 5.5 years. The first 3 years were spent in the cavalry unit, which patrolled the then East German and Czech border when the Soviet East by the bias that exists there. I remain a dedicated, strong conservative. I wore my Army T-shirt to class to generate some conversation through the times. It was great. It was great fun and a testament to strong will and perseverance like not many others I've faced. I went and practiced law for a few years and then came back to Kansas and started a company called Thayer Aerospace with 3 of my West Point classmates. It was another great leadership experience. Hard work. We started the business from scratch and grew it into the 4th largest subcontractor of airplane parts right here in South Central Kansas, the heart and the air capital of the world. We sold our interest in that company in 2005, and since then, and even today, I'm running a company called Century International. We do sort of the same kind of thing. We do machining and service and repair of drilling rigs, and we sell to producers and drillers all across the world, a truly global business. But 15 months ago, I watched what was going on in Washington, D.C. and couldn't sit by anymore. I've never run for office before, but I saw what was taking place in Washington, D.C., which from my perspective was a complete reshaping of the relationship between people and government. It was a complete reshaping of the relationship between people and government, leaving very little space for freedom, liberty, families, communities, churches to do the things they wanted to do, with the federal government interfering in just about everything. And that's not right. It's not consistent with the way we live our lives here in Kansas. And so Susan, who's sitting in the back here today, and I thought about it, worked hard to think about whether this was a place we could be. What bad things will they say about you? First of all, you start with what's true, and then you start with what isn't. And you ultimately come to believe that you're at a place in your life when you can go have an impact. We are at a significant crossroads in our nation's history. This battle today is not about partisanship. It's not about whether our tax code will have income tax rates of 19 or 19.2%. If that were the case, I'd keep my day job. I love what I do every day. My great little business, Century International, is lots of fun. 2009 was one of the worst years imaginable, but it was still great fun to figure out how to tighten your belts and get it right and make it work in the private sector. But we watched what was going on and concluded it was time to go be part of a significant change, real change, in Washington, D.C. And so it's absolutely the case that the best idea wins. And our party, the Republican Party, the party that I've been part of all my life, I was frustrated with too. It was doing things. It was spending money we didn't have as well. But this administration's taken it far beyond. It has done things that have not been done in our nation's history. For those of you who work in the bankruptcy field out here, when we took over GM, we had a thing called secured creditors, and they ignored their rights. These are fundamental principles of law that this president and this administration think, we've just got another business, another industry to go take over. That's just not right. We're involved in a very intense primary battle. It has been great fun. I've been campaigning now since April 2nd of last year. We knew from the start our campaign would not have the most money, and we don't. But we've got enough resources to do it well. I've met with night 50 people, all across the 4th District of Kansas. And when you listen to them, there's deep concern. It doesn't matter if they're running a business or they're a spouse of someone who's lost their job. There is deep concern about how we're going to create wealth, prosperity, and jobs in South Central Kansas. I've lived it. I've been part of it. I have seen the federal government come into your company and drive enormous costs, whether it's EPA or OSHA, who comes to your door and says, that's not right, it's not the way to do it, and you tell them, well, that's what you told me to do 6 months ago. I have seen the federal government put an enormous burden on small businesses here in South Central Kansas. And I've worked hard to articulate my vision of what it takes. A corporate tax structure that makes sense, ordinary income taxes that make sense, dividend and capital gains taxes that make sense, so companies will invest here in South Central Kansas and will grow jobs here, not someplace else. I thank you for your time. I look forward to the questions, and I would certainly appreciate the vote of everyone here